So one of the things that I didn't actually get that much of a chance to go into was some of the more hardware and non-light related stuff. Mainly the actual controllers and how they actually hook up. So the main part of this is a shelf that we have up here, and this controls all of the RGB devices, which means red, green, and blue. And with all those devices, each light has a red light, a green light, and a blue light, and by mixing them together you can create really any color possible. And these are the controllers that control that. So right here we have our dumb DMX controller or dumb RGB controller, and what dumb means is pretty much the entire string of lights will act in the exact same way. Up here we have a pixel controller, and what pixels are lights that each individual light can do something different, and that is what I used on the tree out there, the smaller tree. I had RGB pixels wrapped around that, and that was connected into this controller right here. With the RGB devices, we actually have a box just outside here. This hole leads right to the outside, where there's a little box that we have a bunch of pigtails, similar to what this looks like here. And this actually uses a different type of cable than all your other stuff. It's a low voltage, it's a low voltage. All the stuff here is low voltage, 12 volts, and as you can see, there are 4 wires here. Pretty much lets it go to each of these separate red, green, and blue channels, and that's how this one works. Now for the pixels, it's a little bit different. It actually uses generally three wires, one for ground, one for positive, and one for data for going to each one of the individual pixels, and that's how those work. How these connect up to the computer is through standard Cat5e cable, and those are connected up to each of the controllers. With this controller here and the controllers that are in this box here, they use a different protocol than the standard LOR. They actually use what's called a DMX. So with these controllers, there are 2 different protocols that I'm running. There is the LOR protocol, which runs off of these little USB devices here, and these just connect up to the computer, and then this links out to the Cat5 cable, which then runs out to the controllers. I have 2 of these, and then the other protocol is DMX. Those connects up to the dumb RGB controllers, which I currently don't have the box out here right now, but it's a little, once again, it's a similar USB type box, and that also connects up in a similar way. This is the inside of one of the controller boxes that I was setting up outside, the gray boxes. We have 3 of these, and pretty much this is what it looks like on the inside. And with these controllers, these control the standard Christmas lights that you can buy at any store. And the way these work is there are 16 outputs down here, and each one of them is a separate channel and can control a separate light string or section of a light string. So with the arches, each one of the sections is connected up to one of these outputs. And that allows me in total right now to have 48 different channels to work with for different props and sections of the light show. And those get connected up to the computer, and as I showed in part 1 of the vlog, the very start of part 1, in the software, the Lightorama sequence editor, you have all the channels laid out, and you can turn them on at any point in any different way at different parts of the song, and those go to these boxes here and then output to the specific channels. Now with the different boxes, they actually have what are different unit IDs, and pretty much this one right here, as I have it labeled up here, is unit 1. And that's how you're able to differentiate the different channels in the software and to the controllers, is that with each one you have a separate unit ID. So you have unit 1, channels 1 through 16, and then unit 2, channels 1 through 16, unit 3, channels 1 through 16, etc., for how many channels that you have. And that is how you're able to control each one of these controllers individually. The way the data comes from the computer into here is through these connections right here, and once again it uses the same Cat5 cable, and it just runs through here and then goes into those ports right there. And these are daisy chainable, so you just connect up one into the input side and then one into the output side into the next controller. With the Lightorama software, where you actually go to assign the different unit IDs is what's called the Lightorama hardware. And this is where you go to test and assign each of the controllers to use a different whatever you're using, different unit ID to test out the different channels to make sure they're all working, etc, etc. And this has a ton of different features. You can even select which comm unit you're using for each of the different one of these little guys right here, which send outputs out to the controllers. And that is what's being used here, along with the network preferences. Now this is where you go to actually assign where the different speeds of them are and exactly where the different outputs and where these networks actually go into the software that you actually control, which is the Lightorama sequence editor. And in the DMX here, you can see how the different DMX are in what's called universes. And this is, I'm using one universe here, and this is using the, as you can see right here, just a DMX adapter. Where you go to actually create the shows is in what's called the show editor. And this is where you pretty much go and create the shows. This is where you all put your sequences here: background, startup, animation, musical, interactive, and shutdown sequences. And that's just totally where you lay out what the show is. And it's different than in the sequence editor. You take those completed sequences, you put them here and lay them out the way that they are supposed to go in the show, and that's what it uses. And then from there, you take those show files and put them into the schedule editor. And this is where you can go and put whatever you need, where you're gonna schedule each show to start. You can have different shows, ones that will start at different times, and it really is very customizable in the way that you can actually set this up. And from there, you go to the Lightorama control panel, which is pretty much the main part of Lightorama, and that connects up here. And you, pretty much what you do is you hit enable schedule, which right now it is enabled. So obviously it's playing right now. As you can actually hear, it's playing right now, but it's not actually outputting to anything because all the controllers are inside at this point. But this is actually how the system outputs the both the sound and the signal to the controllers, and that's how it pretty much is able to do this all automatically. Now, in terms of the audio, the way the audio is possible to listen through your car is using an FM transmitter. And this just connects up with a simple audio cable into whatever your speaker you're using for your computer. And that's really the one of the simplest parts of doing this, is that you just connect this up here, tune whatever sequence or whatever wavelength you want to go here, and just put out a sign in your yard so that people actually know what radio station to actually go to. The Lightorama system just puts out the sound to your computer, and then you just plug it in to whatever speakers or FM transmitter you're using. So that's how the audio system works. So generally, a lot of what happens with the software and with creating a light show is really what happens behind the scenes with the different data cables and the way the different cables are connected up.